Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue. Oh, real quick. I was, trying to find my location. I ended up playing the very beginning again, and can anyone let me know what that is? Is that something that all of his type of order says, or is it something particular that he does that, is it maybe a little bit different between people? Because the way he does it, I honestly, I'm a person that likes to listen to music and listen to the sound, not necessarily the message that's being spoken, mostly the instruments and how the vocals sound with the instruments. And the way he was talking, for some odd reason, I want that playing. It sounds really good. I have no idea what it is, but I really, really like it. I don't. Hopefully, that's not disrespectful or anything. I'm not trying to be that way. It's more along the lines. It's just the way he speaks it is just really good. And my gosh. Anyways, let's continue.
Why do we respect her so much? Because she gave up her freedom, her body, her mind, her family, her sons. She hasn't seen her sons, what, 15, 20 years? She gave everything to liberate her country without raising one pistol. And she said very clearly, I blogged about her. Her strength came from Dharma, came from her teacher, came from Buddhism. The thought of not hurting others. And there are many pictures of her getting Dharma from her teachers. They allowed that to her when she was in lockup, house arrest. So, why does the whole world respect her? Not because she's a Buddhist. Because she's a human being that gave herself to liberate others. That's why we respect her. She has no money. She donated to no one. She's a very beautiful lady. In an ultimate sense, on a conventional sense, she's not the supermodel that she was anymore. So everything that we would consider that we would be attracted to her for, she does not have. And everything that we are attracted to her is the fundamental human quality that we wish to develop. Sacrifice, kindness, compassion for others. That's why wherever she goes, they scatter flowers on her. People scatter flowers on me too, I hire them. I learned that from Michael Jackson. Have people faint at your Dharma talks, they faint at his concerts, and hire people to scatter flowers and get your autographs. I learned from the best. She doesn't have to do that. They really want her autograph. They really scatter flowers on her. Why? Because she's practicing what the Buddha taught. Live for others. And amazingly, she started this over 20 years ago. So where is she in the world now? If she speaks, doors open. If she speaks, governments listen. If she speaks, presidents and leaders listen. If she speaks, big businessmen listen. Even people in our country are afraid of her, and she has no army. And they respect. Everybody's dying to grab a picture with her. Where does that come from? Not wealth, not beauty, not position, not power. It comes from her kind heart. The heart that wishes to work for others instead of oneself. So I think she's a living bodhisattva. She's a living example of a spiritual person. And I like that very much. These are the kind of people that I aspire to be in this life and future lives. That I admire very much. Those are the kind of people that bring tears to my eyes. Not many people bring tears. Well, actually, people do bring tears in my eyes, but in another way. Never mind. Let's not go there. I've got a lot of interesting people here, trust me. 20 years in Malaysia, buckets. Anyways, maybe it would have been tankers if I was in America. So, the wheel of sharp weapons is one of the most profound, yet simplistic Dharma texts composed by the great master Dhammarakshita. Dhammarakshita was a great Indian saint and master who lived in the jungles. He gave up everything, and he lived in the jungles where he did his meditation. But having been in the jungles, people still come to seek him out. They still look for him for, divination and blessings and advice and Dharma talks. So seeing how people's nature were in the jungle, he wrote a profound text over 1,000 years ago. And he taught it. He taught it to his great disciple, Adisha. So if we go to page 80 in epilogue, the great yogi Dhammarakshita wrote this text in his jungle retreat. The external jungle with wild beasts, while the internal jungle is the mind. In this time of the 5 degenerate conditions, the jungle is also the place where great negativity is enacted. The great yogi knew all the tenets of Mahayana and received all the transmissions and the explanations. He placed his mind in the sphere of Dharma and thus is called a yogi. Dhammarakshita placed his mind in the sphere of Dharma, which means he thought, learned, taught, and lived Dharma. And therefore they call him a yogi. A yogi is one who makes moves. His name is Dhammarakshita, means he who defends the Dharma. And his other name is Shila Rakshita, meaning he who safeguards discipline. From the initial stages of practice up to the attainment of great union, he protected the Dharma. So he is called Dhammarakshita. Discipline is the very source of all attainments, and kept all the 3 kinds of vows without the slightest transgression. For this reason, he is also called Shila Rakshita. Considering all the teachings he had received, this excellent spiritual friend summarized them here in verse form. In the dreadful forest of the blatantly degenerate age, beings engaged joyfully in unwholesome actions. Still not, their delusions are indeed a dreadful forest, still not disheartened, but wishing to train even the most ignorant, wild, transmigrant being, and taking this aim as his whole practice, the great yogi engaged in these teachings. Amazing. So he abided in the forest, and not being disheartened by many people around him who acted negatively, instead being inspired by the people who acted around him very badly. He was inspired by them. Their ignorance, how wild they were, transmigrant, unpracticed. This was the main practice of his. His main practice was to compassionately teach and help the most wild of the wild barbaric people. Instead of running away from difficulties and the wildness of people and their selfishness, he took this as his main practice. And he practiced this for the rest of his life. Meaning what? To stay among the most difficult people. To stay among the most angry, selfish, difficult people. And to teach them Dharma. With an aim to transform their minds. So Dhammarakshita, although being a scholar and a master and a yogi who abided in the jungle, he was well known for committing himself to the most barbaric people. Barbaric doesn't mean how you eat and how you dress. Barbaric is how you think. So Dhammarakshita is in Buddhist history someone very great. His images are still adorning temple walls and thangkas. People still take him as a great inspiration. And out of his great compassion, knowing he will die, he composed this text to be passed on to the future for other people to read, to tame their minds. So even though he's passed away, his compassion in taming others is in the form of a book. Translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan, Tibetan to English.
Real quick, a few things. So is whatever, I'm not exactly sure what class or what is teaching. Is it a particular type of Buddhism? And it seems like it's very purely Dharma based. Is it only Dharma based, purely Dharma based, or Dharma is the ultimate practice, perhaps? Because he does talk a lot about Dharma a lot. Too. So that book, I'd be interested to read it. I do wonder, I should subscribe to audiobooks, because I need to listen to another audiobook. Or actually I do have one that I should be listening to. But yeah, to get that book, and the sheer fact that it's been translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan, from Tibetan to English, I wonder how much is lost in translation. I know sometimes a lot of things can't be quite translated to one-to-one, and then when it's translated again, another thing couldn't be translated from one-to-one, so you're already 2 languages behind, or 2 languages? English, Tibet to Sanskrit. You're already, there's a 1 language between, which is, it's better to translate straight from Sanskrit to English if possible. That way there's only 1 translate, but you know, you do the best you got. But yeah, It's a pretty small book, so it's something I could probably read in a day. Curious as to what he wrote and what it said.
How fortunate we are. Then it says here, he passed them on to the Lord of the Doctrine, the great Atisha, who attained complete realization of the two kinds of bodhicitta. It was he who brought it to Tibet. So Dhammarakshita passed these teachings to his student, Atisha, and Atisha brought it to Tibet. Atisha, whose ordination name was Dimankara Srijana, was born in the family of the king of Zahor, Bengal. His father was a Dharma king and was so rich, and he was so comparable to a universal monarch. However, Atisha gave up this magnificent life as one might spit in the dust and embrace the Dharma. Atisha himself said in the context, I gave up royalty for austerity, living in cemeteries and so on. I underwent great hardships for the Dharma. Then, because of my past collection of merit, I met my most excellent guru, Dhammarakshita. Dhammarakshita became Atisha's major spiritual teacher because he gave these excellent teachings on mind training to Atisha, who was his teacher. Atisha said, among all the teachings of Sutra and Tantra, the teachings of the two kinds of bodhicitta is the essence of Buddha's thought, the most ambrosia-like one purifying delusions. He gave this to me, so therefore I am empowered by them. The last word is missing, empowered by them. Now, so Dhammarakshita was so compassionate that instead of running away from difficult people, he resided and abided among the most difficult. And he took that as his main practice of developing his strength of mind to always teach the most difficult of people. So, knowing that he can't live forever, he didn't want these teachings to disappear. So he wrote these teachings down, composed them, and therefore it's called the Wheel of Sharp Weapons. And he passed these teachings down to his very great master, Atisha. Atisha was the third great Lama who brought a renaissance of Buddhism to Tibet. If it wasn't for Atisha, there would be no Buddhism in Tibet or not one single monk. He brought the monk lineage to Tibet. Atisha. Padmasambhava tamed the country. He's a layman, he's not a monk. He's a layperson with two consorts. He tamed the country of spirits and demons, and he put the Dharma there. After he passed away, the Dharma degenerated. So when it degenerated, the king of Tibet invited Atisha from India to come and reteach what Padmasambhava had taught. Yes. So that's why I say he's the third master. Padmasambhava, then Shantaraksita, Padmasambhava, then Atisha. Yes. So when Padmasambhava taught, people were still wild. The Dharma didn't settle strongly, but he worked tirelessly for Tibet. After Padmasambhava had passed away, well, one generation, two generations, okay. After that, it went down again. So that's when they invited Atisha to come and reestablish what Padmasambhava had taught. Yeah. So that's why I say he's the third great one. Without these three, there would be no Dharma in Tibet. None. So first is the great monk, Shantaraksita. Then after that was the great tantric adept, Padmasambhava. Then after that was the great Atisha. Yes. Then from Atisha, the Tibetan masters took over. They can carry their own already. But before that, it was these three. So whenever you see Tankas, you'll see these three together. Very revered. Later, Padmasambhava took rebirth as Atisha. Atisha took rebirth as Tsongkhapa. They're one stream. Interesting, huh? Yeah. So therefore, Atisha was born as a very great prince, and his father was a great, great Dharma king and had innumerable wealth. His son would succeed him. He gave everything up to live in the jungles, to practice the Dharma, become a great scholar. And Atisha himself said, he underwent great, great difficulties to practice the Dharma, great hardships. He never gave up. He became a teen. Atisha reached the point where he could talk to his meditational deities directly, openly. Now, Atisha said, although I went through so much great hardships for the Dharma, Atisha says, because of my past good karma, I was able to come upon a guru who taught me the Dharma. This guru was Dhammarakshita. Why is it considered very good collection? Why is it considered the result of good karma to meet a guru. Because a guru will elucidate and teach you the Dharma and teach you things that will change your mind, bring you to enlightenment. Why? Books cannot teach you. Statues cannot teach you. Relics cannot teach you. Temples cannot teach you. But a Dharma teacher can. So to meet a Dharma teacher that you can connect with, to meet a Dharma teacher that can elucidate and clearly bring the Dharma to your mind is clearly a result of good karma. Why is it good karma? Because when you meet a Dharma teacher, the purpose of being a Dharma teacher is to get Dharma. When you get Dharma, you practice, you transform. When you transform, you become happy. Happiness comes from good karma. But there are steps for that. It isn't just good karma and you're happy. It isn't just you have good karma and then you become happy. Good karma or merit will result in finding a method to transform your mind so you become happy. So therefore, in the Tibetan tradition, in the Northern tradition, we revere our teachers tremendously.
Interesting, it said that you can't get that from books or scriptures or temples, only from gurus or Dharma teachers. I guess I forgot that Dharma is, I believe, very closely related to karma, because he obviously said it there. Dharma is, if I remember correctly, but essentially your role, your role, whether it be a fighter, a father, sister, brother, whatever it may be. I believe so, and you're supposed to play that role accordingly. The only reason why I understood it that way was the Bhagavad Gita with Arjuna and Vishnu. Again, I don't know why I can't remember those names. But I believe it was Arjuna for sure, but the god, I believe it was Vishnu, and the charioteer, which was the god. I'm telling him that you must play your role, you must do it to, you must play your dharma, in a sense. You must, even though they're your family and they've wronged you, you have to play your role as a king, emperor, or whatever the title may be. So it seems like, at least for now, with him, and maybe it's just this video, that they really focus on Dharma and Karma. I mean, with the reincarnation, about how we always reincarnate based on our mind, is what he says. It transfers everything from our mind to the next body. So, and this is something that's very much karma related as well, from my my limited understanding of it. You in your next life, your karma will follow you, your good and bad karma. So this all seems to fit in so far: dharma, karma, and the fact of rebirth. I think at least in this one, I don't think is there enlightenment? I mean, Buddha was enlightened, but does Buddha still get reborn? And he hasn't said anything about that just yet, about whether an enlightened person gets reborn or not. So far, from my understanding, is that you do always get reborn.
Tremendously. Why? We make offerings to our teachers. We offer flowers, the 5 sensory offerings. We offer our body, speech, and mind. We offer prostrations. And before Dharma teachings, we offer a mandala. Why? To collect further merit so we can receive the nectar of Dharma. The only way we can get Dharma is if we have the good karma to receive it. If we don't have the good karma to receive it, why would we receive the methods to become happy? It's impossible. So meeting a Dharma teacher is considered really an accumulation of the highest merits. It's just like when I met my teacher in Los Angeles. It changed my life. Literally, it changed my life. And my life has changed ever since till now. It didn't go backwards. I'm not the great person. I'm not the greatest Dharma practitioner. That's definitely for sure. But I think I would have been a much nastier, ugly person if I had met my teacher. Because I know who I am. I know what kind of person I am. I know my good stuff and I know my bad stuff. And I know in time, my bad stuff would have become stronger. Because why? If I stayed in America and chased after all the other things that I'm told to chase, definitely those qualities have become stronger. Definitely. I'm no different than anyone else. But because I met my teacher, he taught me another way. And I was very fortunate to practice, not perfectly, but practice what he taught me 20 years ago until now. I have some semblance of happiness. My anger is under control. My motivation is to help others. And I do live my life the best I can to be of a service to others because of my teacher's teachings. So therefore, the last 20 years, the way I lived my life was of some service to others. Some service. This came from my teacher who gave me the knowledge. So therefore, meeting my teacher, Kyabje Sarvamji, was definitely an accumulation of great merits from previous lives. And for me to even have faith in my teacher and follow him, now that he has passed away, to even have faith in my teacher and follow him even after he has passed away. How do I follow my teacher after he's passed away? Whatever he's taught me, I have not abandoned. I've put it in my mind and I've practiced. It's definitely merits. And I rejoice in that. I don't have any arrogant proudness of it. I rejoice. Today we're able to meet and talk and share the Dharma is because of the kindness of my teacher. Because if he never taught me patiently for decades, I would not be here teaching you or sharing anything. I don't know, I might be in a movie with you. You never know, right? And then afterwards we both get drunk and be unhappy. Now we're sober and unhappy. Anyways, seriously, it's the kindness of my teacher. So in the Tibetan tradition, when we take refuge, we recite Namo Guru Be, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhamma. I take refuge in my teacher. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Without our teacher, there is no Buddha. Why is there no Buddha? No one to teach us the methods to become a Buddha. Without our teacher, there's no Dharma. Where is the Dharma without our teacher? A living example. Without the Dharma, without the teacher, there is no Sangha. No one to ordain people into the monkhood and manhood. So without the Guru, there is no Buddha, there is no Dharma, there is no Sangha. All the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the past relied on the teacher. All the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the future, to become a Buddha, will rely upon a teacher. Just like the current Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to be now will rely on the teacher. Hence, I take refuge in my teacher. And with humility and good motivation, I listen to the Dharma from my teacher. And that's the basis of having respect for our teacher in the Tibetan tradition, in short form, in a short way. Now, so therefore our teacher says here very clearly, so that's why I say when the words are here, when we read it, okay, I get it, the teacher elucidates what's written. So therefore the Dharma book doesn't teach you, the teacher elucidates further what it is said here. So therefore our teacher tells you that the essence of all the teachings of both Sutra and Tantra, the most ambrosia-like essence is bodhicitta, the development of bodhicitta. And this is what this book is about. All right? Now, let's go, where of course we can't finish the whole book tonight. We'll just do a little bit. And you guys can keep the books. The Wheel of Sharp Weapons, the Mahayana Training of the Mind. The name of this work is The Wheel of Sharp Weapons, effectively striking the heart of the foe. Effectively striking the heart of the foe means what? The foe is not an outer foe. The foe is inside of us. Anger, ignorance. That's the real foe. Why is that the real foe? That's the one that makes us speak unpleasantly, act unpleasantly, think unpleasantly, and create actions that are unpleasant. Anger. You may say, but that person did that to me. He did that to you. That's his problem. When you do it to him, that's your problem. So the foe here is not an outer foe, it's a foe inside. And the next line is a homage to Yamataka. Yamataka is the fierce manifestation of Manjushri, which is a complete complete adversary or opponent of anger. So one who meditates on Yamataka or Manjushri, anger becomes eradicated. So the next line says, I pay heartfelt homage to you, Yamataka. Your wrath is opposed to the great Lord of Death. What is the great Lord of Death? The great Lord of Death is the one that kills us. It doesn't refer to an outer Lord of Death. It refers to anger. Anger kills happiness. Anger kills people. Anger kills peace, harmony. So anger is the great Lord of Death. That's why without a teacher, when we read this, say, what is the Buddhist talking about? The great Lord of Death.
Yep. I would have thought there's on a Lord of Death itself. And again, I got to get that book just to. Since it's very short, it seems like a very quick read. Now whether I'd understand it completely or not, obviously, more than likely not. Highly likely not. But I can read it multiple times, get some interpretations, and hopefully, watching maybe more of his videos, maybe get a better understanding of that book, or maybe on this one.
Is that a person that comes and takes us away? No. So therefore, in the jungles of poisonous plants struts the peacocks. Though medicine gardens of beauty lie near, the masses of peacocks do not find gardens pleasant, but thrive on the essence of poisonous plants. In a similar fashion, the brave bodhisattvas remain in a jungle of worldly concern. No matter how joyful this world's pleasure gardens, these brave ones are never attracted to pleasures, but thrive in a jungle of suffering and pain.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Okay.
There may be a beautiful garden full of herbs and flowers that are healing and pleasant and beautiful and aromatic. Peacocks by nature don't like that. Peacocks by nature actually eat poisonous substances from the ground, hazardous substances from the ground. In fact, their beautiful tail feathers grow so illustrious and so beautiful and so colorful is a result of the poisons. So therefore, peacocks, instead of abiding in pleasure gardens, they abide in unpleasant places, poisonous plants and poisonous items they eat, yet they thrive and become even more beautiful. Bodhisattvas, or people who train in the bodhisattva mind, bodhicitta, are like peacocks. They don't look for good things for themselves. They don't look for pleasant things for themselves. They can sacrifice pleasure for themselves, and they can live among barbaric, wild, difficult, hard people, places that are filled with materialism, money, greed, pride, and be surrounded by people who are extremely selfish. Instead of these great people being brought down and depressed, they thrive. They're inspired by negativity. They're inspired by selfishness. They're inspired by materialism. They're inspired by people's anger, by their suffering, by their greed. Why are they inspired? Because the whole purpose of them to exist is to benefit others. So if they live in a pleasure garden full of Buddhas, who will they help? It's not an egocentric trip. It is compassion. So therefore, beings who are real monks, real nuns, real Dharma practitioners, even lay people, who abide among materialism in places they don't find pleasant, away from the monastery, away from the jungles, but they abide in places that people are filled with greed and anger, like the peacock. Instead of being brought down, depressed, dragged down, they thrive. They thrive among the greedy. They thrive among the selfish. They are inspired by their pain and their unhappiness. For what? To help them even more. To teach them more. To give them gifts. To give them love. To give them compassion. A sign in Buddhism, a sign of a bodhisattva, a sign of a person practicing bodhisattvahood is one that gives a lot, who is very generous without motive, who gives continuously. Why? The gift that they give you is meant to benefit you in one way or another. So therefore...
Real quick. I understood that wrongly initially. I thought it's the fact that the peacocks were probably human beings living in this poisonous world instead of seeking this pleasure area, enlightenment. I consider the pleasure area enlightenment, and the poisonous area the material world. And they're constantly eating in this poisonous world instead of realizing that there is enlightenment or this whatever non-poisonous area to be. That's how I initially understood it, which kind of makes sense, but at the same time, then if the peacocks do eat poisonous and that's what they live off of, then obviously they wouldn't want to go to those plants because they don't eat those. Anyways, yeah, that's how I initially took that. And let's see, he's talking about the people. It's really weird to say they're striving in people's misery and sorrow and anger. It's like, I don't know if that's the right word to use on that. But I get what it's saying. Essentially, I guess they see that people are suffering, and their job is to help them out, try to ease their suffering, teach them the right ways, and whatever else to. I don't know if their intent is to get them out of the material world, but at least I would say at the very least, and reduce suffering, which is what I want to do.
Like peacocks, they thrive. We spend our whole life in the search for enjoyment, yet tremble with fear at the mere thought of pain. Thus, since we are cowards, we are miserable still. But the brave bodhisattvas accept suffering gladly and gain from their courage a true lasting joy. Now, desire is a jungle of poisonous plants here. Only brave ones like peacocks can thrive on such fare. If cowardly beings like crows were to try it, because they are greedy, they might lose their lives. What does that mean? We spend our whole life looking for good food, good house, good clothes, good car, good entertainment, good partners, good friends, good name. The minute a little bit of pain comes, a little bit of discomfort, a little bit things go wrong, we become angry. We ask why. We cannot accept it. We become distraught. We become depressed. We become extremely destabilized. Extremely. Why? That is a measure of how selfish we are. That is a true measure of how selfish we are. When we only want pleasant things, we only want pleasant things. And when anything unpleasant comes, it totally destabilizes us. It shows you how selfish we are. And this selfishness is not taken in the context that we are stuck being selfish, we're stuck being bad people, we're bad people. It means that's our training at the moment. Nothing is permanent. So when you're labeled as selfish for the moment, you don't have to be the next moment. Nothing is permanent. So we don't have to become, oh my God, I'm selfish. No wonder I'm unhappy. And then we become even more depressed because we've been told why we're depressed, right? It becomes worse. Let's take another pill. Exactly, let's have another drink. After the Dharma talk, we go get drunk because we're even more depressed. We know what's wrong. No, that's not meant that way. It's not meant for you to become more depressed because nothing is permanent and stagnant. A toxic swamp can be cleaned out to be crystal clear waters. So what does that give us? That's the state of mind we're in, but that's the state of mind we can transform. There's hope. And that's the beauty of Dharma. If there's no hope, why learn the Dharma? You won't ever be a Buddha. Buddha is a God. He's up there, you're down here, the end. You're always down here. But that's not what the Buddha spoke. I'm up here, and you will be too. Because I was where you are, and I will teach you how to get where I am. And that's the beauty of Buddhism.
It's really weird that I remember, I don't know if things have changed, but last I remember, there's two different kinds of Buddhism. One that doesn't believe in a God, which I thought, which was Gautama Buddha was, the original thought was there's no God. Or Sadhguru says that he never really, I think, if I remember correctly, Sadhguru said that Gautama never answered the question. If you believe in there's no God, he will say there is a God. If you believe there is a God, he'll say there's no God. In a sense, seek the truth. I remember my world religions class taught by an Indian woman. She said that Gautama didn't believe in God. But in sometime in the past now, I remember hearing that Buddhism's been split into two: one that believes that Buddha is a god, and one that doesn't believe in God, any gods. Is that still true today? And I'm guessing he's the one that believes that Buddha. Well, he just said it, but I'm assuming his particular teachings to believe that Buddha is a god. What else did it say? I think that's about it so far. That's questions there.
Is that you can accept Buddha as a god? You can accept him as a creator, as a teacher, a creator of happiness. Or you can keep him on the altar and just pray to him and never learn anything he says and never transform. Then nothing will happen. How many millions of Christians pray to Jesus and nothing happens? How many millions of Buddhists pray to Buddha and nothing happens? They're just as angry and unpleasant and unhappy as before they went and prayed. Because it's not a matter of praying to a god. It's a matter of listening to what these gods say and applying it and transforming. Because Buddha never said, you are there and you're stuck. I am here and you worship me. If you don't, you go to hell. He never said that. He doesn't want that. In fact, he's not even interested for you to make his images. So So why do we make his images? That's a different story. Now, so therefore the bodhisattva spends their whole life near the jungle, in the jungle of poisonous plants. Poisonous plants means one, surrounded by people with greed, unhappiness, anger, jealousy, and they thrive. That's a sign of a bodhisattva.
Not thriving in their anger, jealousy, and all this, but thriving because they're above that. Got it. Because whatever, sometimes I guess you could say that they thrive, like they're thriving off people's miseries. You know, people who take advantage of people will thrive over people's misery, sadness, anger. But that's not what it meant. I was thinking, it's like it almost sounded like that, and I just want to make sure that's kind of clear, just in case there's people out there who may have understood it that way. I think the way he meant to say it was that they thrive in difficult environments, that they don't let people with negative energy, anger, sadness, whatever, affect them. They thrive on their own, even with all the misery going on around. They're thriving in the environment, not because of other people suffering.
All right. Next page, standard 5.
All right, actually, good pausing time there. So anyways, I'm pretty enjoying this, I will say. Very interesting. Now I remember where I read it. Actually, it's on his YouTube page. I think he at least when if I last remember correctly, he was in Malaysia, I believe. But I don't know where he's at over here. I probably should look at the description in the video, see if he's in America maybe, or because I'm assuming in Malaysia they do have their own native language there, and English is, if anything, a secondary language. Because yeah, he's teaching English, so I'm assuming he's in America, and it would be pretty cool. Is he here or is it Malaysia? And again, I probably should look in this description. Again, probably next time I record this, again I will listen to the very beginning again, because the way he says that is it's magical to me. I don't know what it is he's saying. Hopefully it's nothing bad. I doubt it, of course, but just it's like I want that as a song for some odd reason, and just have it with that chanting, the way he chants it. It's really, really, really nice. I don't know how else to describe it. Again, I'm a person who, when I listen to music, I like the beats more than the whatever the message happens to be. I like the beats, and then the vocals have to sound good with the beats. Irrelevant, the vocal could be one word. It doesn't matter what that word is. If it sounds good with the beats, I like it. Now, don't get me wrong. The vocals kind of matter, but not necessarily the message necessarily. Just again how it all flows and sounds together. Don't know if that has anything to do with vibrations or not, probably, but because vocals are vibrations. Anyways, that's the end of this video. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.